So very good afternoon, sir. Sir, you are not audible.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. So we can start the lecture. Before that, I can say something about the about Dr. Prasanth Brother, sir. So very good afternoon to every participants. In that eighth session, we will listen from Dr. Prasant V. Bharadar, Chairman and Professor at Department of Energy. The topic of presentation is kinematic modeling of anaerobic biotization. Before presenting, I must speak few lines about him. Dr. Prasant V. Varadar, beside being the chairman and professor at the Department of Energy Center, MANIT, Bhopal, is also an educator, in, innovator, and researcher and author. He did his PhD in thermal engineering. He has successfully led 8 projects which involves sensitivity analysis and optimization of hybrid system of solar, wind, and biomass, and evaluated downdraft gasifier in RGPV campus using different biomass for electricity generation for Madhya Pradesh Council of Science and Technology (MPCST), and also 2 projects for Ministry of New and Renewable Energy (MNRE), energy generation using vortex induced vibration and blade profile optimization of Savonius wind turbine. He carried out electricity generation project entirely based on generating wind power of capacity 250 kilowatt under RESCO model. His constant and unfailing devotion earned him Best Faculty Award in 2010 by Honorable Chairman BOG and Best Researcher Award in 2017 by CRS Education, NCR Noida. He has also published over 140 research papers in reputed international and national journals and conferences, author of 5 books and eight, 8 books chapter on mechanical engineering, biodiesel, and renewable energy resources. He also has 2 patents to his credit. He has also guided 71 MTech theses and 14 PhD theses so far. He has done several sponsored and consultancy projects in energy sector for Madhya Pradesh, Urja Vikas Nigam, MHDC, and municipal corporation. So now, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohapatra, for such a nice introduction.
Sir, you can share your presentations.
Sure. So, very good afternoon, you all. I take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to the organizing committee of this 1 week FDP program on green technology and waste management for the era of advanced manufacturing and circular economy. The topic of this FDP, which they have chosen, that is very much relevant to the today's context. As you all know that um our major dependency today is on fossil fuels, but the fossil fuels are vanishing at faster rate, and at the same time, demand for energy is increasing continuously, and we have to make the balance between these two. So it's better to have look on the alternative energy sources. So that is why I have chosen my presentation topic. So let me share my presentation with you. Is it visible to you all, friend?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible, but you just do it full screen, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Full screen is there.
Full screen is the, but it is means the slide are showing the first, second, third like that. Just click on that in below one that is 64% is there. After that, small button is there, cup type structure. Just click that one, sir.
It means,
In the below bottom, sir. In
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have
right.
made it. I have made it full screen. Full screen. Was it visible?
No, sir. It is not showing full screen.
It is full screen. One second, I will share it.
Yes, sir.
Now is it visible?
Yes, sir. Visible.
And full screen also?
No, sir, it is not full screen. You have, sir, in that, have you seen that in the Word file, in that bottom, there is 64% is there. In that side, one button is there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that you have to click. No, sir, that is the percentage. In the after that, after
Uh,
94%, there is a button is there.
F5 or cup shape is
F5
there.
you can click on F5 also.
So that I have done. I have done. I have made it full screen.
Okay, sir, you can continue because you have not that much time. So you can continue, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. So the topic of my presentation is heat transfer analysis and kinetic modeling of anaerobic biodigestion. So my presentation consists of two parts: heat transfer analysis and anaerobic kinetic modeling of anaerobic biodigestion. Just a minute. I'm trying to make it full screen. Just,
Sir, I can give one advice. So you just do, sir, full screen sharing, and then if you do that full mode of the PPT, so it can be visible, sir.
one of my scholar is doing that.
Yeah, just your entire screen. You just do that, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So my presentation consists of two parts actually: heat transfer analysis and kinetic modeling of anaerobic biodigestion. So this is based on basically actually a decomposition process of waste. Waste, all of you know, waste is always problematic, whether it is organic waste or inorganic waste. But organic waste is more problematic as if you keep that organic waste for a longer period, there are a lot of disadvantages associated with that. Because first main is the storage problem. You cannot store it for longer period. Second thing, somehow if you store it, then the entire atmosphere surrounded by the waste get unhygienic. Then storage problem is also there. So a lot of problems are arises. So it's better to have converting that waste into useful product. So one of the route for converting the organic waste into useful product is the decomposition process or digestion process. So that can take place aerobically as well as anaerobically. Aerobically means if the decomposition or degradation or decaying or deterioration or digestion takes place in the presence of air, that is aerobic. But if that decomposition process takes place in the absence of air, means if you are keeping that waste inside the closed reactor and you are not allowing it to decompose it, you are not allowing it to expose it to the external environment, then also decomposition process will start, but it will be an anaerobic decomposition process. Okay. Now, for anaerobic decomposition process to take place, three essential conditions are required. That is wet, warm, and dark. Wet means there should be adequate quantity of moisture should be there. Then only it will take place. Warm, there should be adequate temperature, and dark means whichever the decomposition process is there, that should not be exposed to the external atmosphere. So these three essential conditions are required. But what happens if the decomposition process takes place in the closed container? There are chances of heat losses. Main modes are there of heat losses. That is heat losses, convective heat losses, and um, evaporative heat losses. So you have to closely monitor how much heat losses are there, because adequate temperature is required there. Okay. So for this purpose, heat transfer analysis has been carried out. Second thing is that the decomposition process which takes place inside the closed reactor, that decomposition is done by number of bacteria or microorganisms, and their quantity inside the reactor is millions of quantity or crores of quantities. So they grow, multiply, get divides. Okay, so their behavior, their nature, the growth rate, dying rate, then uh, the decomposition process. In that decomposition process, the substrate which you are using, so the substrate concentrations, so all these parameters, how they behave with respect to each other. So for this purpose, the kinetic modeling of this biodecomposition process is there. Okay, so this presentation consists of two parts: heat transfer analysis and kinetic modeling of the anaerobic biodigestion process. So first pass we will see heat transfer analysis of the anaerobic biodigestion. Just a minute. So let's have a look at the introductory idea about the anaerobic decomposition process and the motivation behind that. Okay. So as I told you earlier, aerobic decomposition and anaerobic decomposition both have merits and demerits. Okay. Aerobic decomposition process takes place in the open air, whereas for anaerobic decomposition process, you have to keep that waste inside the closed reactor, where you are not allowing it to exposing it to the external environment. Okay, but there are a lot of advantages of anaerobic decomposition process over the aerobic decomposition process. Aerobic decomposition is actually a sort of composting. Okay, you are keeping the waste in a open air, open atmosphere, and there you are allowing to decompose it. But here in the anaerobic decomposition process, whichever waste, organic waste is there, that you are keeping in the closed container, and there the bacteria grows and multiply and decompose it, okay, and convert it into the useful gases. Okay. So in the aerobic decomposition, you will find that there is a soil pollution, groundwater pollution, then leaching of ammonia, then methane emission, which causes a greenhouse effect 22 times worse than the carbon dioxide. And main problem associated with the aerobic decomposition is the bad odor. Whereas in the anaerobic decomposition, you will find that definitely decomposition process takes place there, but everything is inside the reactor. So the surrounded atmosphere, surrounding environment, that will not get spoiled. Okay. Whereas in the aerobic decomposition process, you'll find that most of the mosquitoes, insects, flies, the breeding of mosquitoes, insect, flies will be there. Okay, and they spoils entire atmosphere. Then in the anaerobic decomposition process, as everything happens inside the reactor, there will not be any bad odor. Okay, and the end part, end part or leftover thing in the anaerobic decomposition is the manure or fertilizers which is there, which will remain there after completely decomposing. Okay, that will have more nutritious value as compared to the aerobic decomposition one. Whereas in the aerobic one, definitely there will be a manure or fertilizer as an end product, but that will not have that much nutritious value as compared to the anaerobic one. Okay, and even there will not be any bad odor of that leftover in the anaerobic decomposition process. So there are a lot of advantages of anaerobic decomposition process over the aerobic decomposition process. Now, whichever organic waste you are using in the form of plants, then woody biomass, okay, uh, leaves, drop leaves, okay. So this bio waste, bioenergy or bio waste, we can consider as a renewable source of energy because it can be renewed again and again. So that can be understand with the help of this carbon cycle that plants and human beings are eating the these animals and human beings, they are eating the plants, okay, and they are giving the animal waste or human waste, okay, that can be used as a fertilizer for the plants. Then the carbon dioxide which is exhaled by the human beings and animals, that is taken by the plants for the photosynthesis, in the photosynthesis process, where in the photosynthesis process they prepare their food by using this carbon dioxide in the presence of sunlight, okay, and this plants gives oxygen which can be inhaled by the human beings and the animal, okay. Then this woody biomass can be burned in the industries or furnace or boilers, okay. So where it gets combusted and the carbon dioxide is released, that carbon dioxide is again taken by the plants in the photosynthesis process. So thus this cycle is repeated again and again. So in this way we can understand that this bio waste or biomass or bio waste, okay, that is a renewable source of energy. Now, this waste, which is of no use, so that can be converted into useful products. So this bio waste or biomass, okay. So different routes are there for converting into the useful product, like thermochemical conversion, biological conversion, then physical conversion. In the thermochemical conversion, different processes are there like combustion, pyrolysis, gasification, incineration. Whereas in the biological conversion, different processes are fermentation, anaerobic digestion. In the physical conversion, squeezing. By squeezing, the oil can be extracted from the seeds, and then by transistorification, that bio oil can be converted into the biodiesel. Okay, so I'm giving you little bit idea about each and every processes. So the first is the combustion. In the combustion process, you will find that it's a open air burning. So whichever bio waste is there, okay. So if dry waste is there, dry woody biomass or dry waste is there, then this process can be carried out. That is combustion. So in the open air, if you burned it, okay, so combustion takes place. So as a result of that, heat energy can be obtained. So that heat energy can be utilized for different purposes. Then the pyrolysis, in the pyrolysis process, instead of open air burning, limited amount of air is supplied, limited or restricted amount of air is supplied, and the pyrolysis process takes place. As a result of that, that woody waste, woody biomass can be converted into bio oil, coal or gas. Okay, So here the difference between this combustion and pyrolysis process is that in the combustion process, adequate quantity of air you are supplying, whereas in the pyrolysis process, initially for just initiating the combustion, little bit amount of air you are supplying, but after that you are completely stopping the further supply of air. So that is a pyrolysis process. Then one more process is there, that is incineration process. In the incineration process, it is more or less similar to combustion process. Only thing is that whichever things are there that you are combusting in the container, okay, and adequate amount of air you are supplying, adequate amount of air you are supplying. Okay, so there that waste get combusted, and the heat energy is obtained. Okay, so that heat energy can be used for different purposes like uh, uh, this incinerator. You must have seen in bigger size hospitals, large size incinerators are there. There are different types of inorganic waste like plastic in the hospital, plastic bottles, syringes, or caps of the capsules, uh, then medicines, wrappers of the medicine. Okay, so this inorganic material that can be put inside the incinerator, and after combusting it, the heat energy can be obtained. And you find that in the hospitals, that heat energy can be utilized for different purposes like for washing clothes, curtains, towels, or bed sheets, etc. So one side they are using that waste, utilizing that waste in a better way, and other side they are getting useful energy, and there itself they are utilizing that waste in a better way, in a better way. So in the hospitals, you will find that there are a lot of applications of the incinerators. Um, then the gasification process. In the gasification process also, closed container is there, which is called gasifier. Inside the gasifier, different woody biomass can be put. Okay, so but it should be a dry waste woody biomass. Okay, so this gasification process takes place in three stages, like torrefication, carbonization process, then pyrolysis process, and last is the gasification process. So they have different goals like drying zone, combustion zone, oxidation zone. Okay, and initially in the drying zone, that woody biomass is converted. Uh, the generally the moisture content which is present there, that gets accept out, yeah, that get uh, escape out. Okay, and that is the drying zone. Okay, then the combustion and reduction zones are there, and after drying zone, the pyrolysis zone is there, where a limited amount of air is supplied just to initiate the combustion process. After that, the further supply of air is completely stopped. Okay, and it allows to pyrolyze it. Okay, so sticky tar based compound is formed around 550 650 degrees Celsius. If you further supply amount of heat, then in that case up to 1000 or 1050 degrees Celsius, it gets converted to the gas, that is producer gas or syngas. So that is gasification process. Now, another route is the biological conversion. In the biological conversion, fermentation is there. Fermentation means what? Fermentation is actually the life without the oxygen, life without the oxygen. So that is actually two types of fermentation. Aerobic, anaerobic fermentation is there. Okay, so glucose is uh, completely uh, decomposing. Okay, and breaking of glucose. Okay, that occurs, and this fermentation have a lot of application in dairy items or bakery item or brewery items. Okay, so that is acidic fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. Wines, various medicines, by decomposing different useful product, can be pickles, different useful products can be obtained using this fermentation process. Okay, now the anaerobic digestion process, in the anaerobic digestion process, as I told you earlier, that whichever organic waste is there, that you have to put inside the closed reactor, okay, where you are not allowing it to expose it to the external environment, okay, and there with the help of this anaerobic microorganisms or bacteria, decomposition process takes place, okay, and useful gas is produced, that is methane gas or producer's gas, and that methane gas or producer gas which is produced there, that can be used for obtaining heat energy or electricity generation. Okay, if you are supplying that biogas or methane gas to the cook stove, okay, so that can fulfill your cooking needs. Okay, for cooking purposes, that gas can be used. Okay, their calorific value is around 23 megajoule per cubic meter. Okay, and if you supply to the fuel engine, then electricity also can be generated. Okay, then the next route of waste conversion is physical conversion. So where the oil containing seeds, so after squeezing, the oil can be extracted, and that bio oil can be used for burning or obtaining heat energy. Or if you undergo, it undergo transistorification process, okay, uh, then that bio oil or vegetable oil bio oil can be converted into biodiesel. Okay, so that is physical conversion. Uh, Along with that, one more thing is there, that is converting briquettings or pellets, that is solidifying the fuels. Okay, so if any dry leaves are there or powder from organic waste is there, okay, so by compacting it, it can be converted to the solid fuels like briquettes or pellets, and that solid fuel briquettes can be used in the furnaces or boilers or different um, combustor. Okay, so where it get combusted and you can get heat energy. So these are the different routes of the waste conversion. So which type of waste is there, accordingly you can adopt that route. Okay, if the dry waste is there, then the thermochemical conversion. If the wet waste is there, then the biological conversion. Or if the waste is oil containing waste is there, then in that case physical conversion can be there. Or for um, powdered or loose waste is there, then in that case solidification can be done. So aerobic decomposition, as I already give you idea about aerobic decomposition, that takes place in the presence of oxygen, and after aerobic decomposition, it gives carbon dioxide and ammonia and some other gases in small quantities, and heat in large quantities, and is evolved, and the final product can be used as a fertilizer in the aerobic decomposition process. But in the anaerobic decomposition process, that takes place in the absence of oxygen, and after decomposition process, it gives methane, carbon dioxide, some hydrogen, and other gases in traces, and little bit of heat is produced. Okay, and the final product of this anaerobic decomposition with higher nitrogen content than produced in the aerobic fermentation. So the final product which we get in the anaerobic decomposition, that is the gas, methane gas or producer gas, and the leftover can be used as a manures or good fertilizer. Okay, and that manures or good fertilizer which will remain, which will be there, that will have more nutritious value as compared to the manure or particular fertilizer which is obtained by aerobic route. So let's have a look at the average composition of the methane gas or biogas, which is actually the end product of the anaerobic decomposition process. So the major share is of methane, whose percentage is around 50 to 70%. Then followed by the carbon dioxide, its share is around 30 to 40%. Then the hydrogen, 5 to 10%. Nitrogen, 1 to 2%. Water vapor or moisture content 0 to 0.3%, and H2S, hydrogen sulfide, uh, they are in the traces form. Okay, so this biogas or methane gas you can use for obtaining heat energy. Okay, so it must have more calorific value because you are going to use this as a fuel. Okay, but methane is okay, but as far as carbon dioxide is concerned, okay, there should not be a more percentage of carbon dioxide in the methane gas or biogas. Okay, because we use this carbon dioxide as a fire extinguisher. But if the presence of carbon dioxide in the biogas or methane gas is more, so it will drastically reduce the calorific value of the biogas or methane gas. So you need to remove this carbon dioxide by performing the purification process. So in the purification process, what you have to do, you have to pass this biogas or methane gas through alkaline solution where it get carbon dioxide get absorbed and converted into carbonate. Okay, so and remaining gas will be CO2 free. So in this way, that purification process can be carried out. Okay, so the remaining gas will have more calorific value. Okay, yeah, after the purification process. So in the anaerobic digestion process, we can use this organic waste or green waste for the decomposition process. Okay, and after decomposition process, the gas which is produced that can be used for cooking purposes, lighting purposes, heating purposes, for electricity generation, and as a fuel also. If you supply it to the fuel engine, okay, uh, IC engine, okay, so it can be used as a fuel for transportation also. So we can see that how this anaerobic digestion process takes place. So this anaerobic digestion process takes place in three stages. The first stage is the hydrolysis stage, which is also called as a faction stage or fermentation stage. So the word hydro means water. That means in this stage, adequate quantity of water to be added. Okay. So generally, the moisture content required that is around 75 to 80%. Okay, so by by volume by volume equal quantity of water to be added there. Okay, to increase the moisture content. Okay, now whatever the waste you are using there, okay, initially that is in the form of complex waste organic, carbohydrate, protein, lipids. Okay, so in the hydrolysis stage, as a adequate quantity of water is there, so they this complex waste gets solubilized or converted into simple organic compound. Okay, polymers are converted into monomers, and um, most of the hard things or complex things get converted into simpler compound. So that happens in the hydrolysis stage. Now, after this soluble, converting it into soluble organics or simpler compound, okay, stage two starts. In the stage two, this simpler or soluble organics compound are converted into acetic acid or propionic acid, okay, butyric acid. Um, so this stage is called acetogenesis stage, and after that, third stage starts, which is called methogenesis stage, where this acetic acid or propionic acid is converted into methane and carbon dioxide. Methane and carbon dioxide. That is why this name is given. That is methogenesis stage. As far as the time period required for each stage is concerned, generally for hydrolysis stage, the period required is around 2 to 3 days. Okay, and for stage two, the period which is required, that is around 3 to 5 days. Okay, and for stage three, the period is required more than 4 days, 5 days, or even more than that also. Actually, the total period required for this anaerobic decomposition process is called HRT, hydraulic retention time. Okay, HRT, hydraulic retention time. Okay, retention period. So actually what happen ki which type of waste you are going to use, that decides the hydraulic retention time. If the waste which you are using that is complex type or uh, which is not easily get solubilized, so then in that case more HRT time is required, whereas the waste which is get easily decomposed, okay, that requires less HRT, hydraulic retention time. Okay, so the rate and favorable condition for each anaerobic digestion process that plays a very important role in the anaerobic decomposition process. So you'll find here that the hydrolysis stage, the liquefaction and solubilization occurs. Okay, so where the complex organic matter is degraded to the basic structure of hydraulic bacteria, like proteins is converted into polypeptide or amino acid, fats is converted into glycerin or fatty acid, amylose is converted to monosaccharide and polysaccharide. Okay, and the bacteria which are present there, they decompose the long chain of the complex high carbohydrates, proteins and lipids into shorter parts. Now the bacteria or microorganisms which are present there in the anaerobic reactor. So if sample is taken and if you see it under electronic microscope, they appears like this. So different two types of bacteria you will observe there, spherical shape and tubular shape. So the spherical shape bacteria are called Methanosarcina genus, and the long tubular ones are called Methanothrix bacteria. Okay, and they appears like this under electron microscope. Okay. As far as degradability of organic material is concerned, so some of the materials, organic matter, you will find that they get easily decompose or degrade. Okay, so they require less retention period. So like fishes, fats, vegetables, then sugar. Okay, so this type of organic waste, they gets easily degrade. So that requires a shorter period of retention period or residence time, whereas some of the waste you will find like grass, leaves, okay, wood chips, okay, so they will not get easily decomposed. Okay, so for decomposing it, lot of period is required. So long residence time is needed for such a hard waste. Okay. Now, this process of decomposition, anaerobic decomposition, as we are saying that anaerobic means it should not expose to the external environment. So, whichever container you are using, that should be a closed container, completely closed container. So, that this anaerobic digester or reactor, okay, it should be a airtight chamber, and it is filled with the green waste, okay, and you should not allow miss a care should be taken that it should not allow to expose to the external environment, okay, and whichever sludge is there, that gets settled down at the bottom, okay, and whichever gas is produced after completely decomposing, so that is collected at the top of the digester or reactor, and from which it is transport it is collected in the gas collection chamber. As I told you earlier that three essential conditions are required for anaerobic decomposition process, that is wet, warm and dark. So there should be adequate temperature. Okay, so temperature is around 35 to 55 degrees Celsius. Okay, now the waste which you are putting in the digester, okay, so according to that, three types of three modes are there: batch mode, continuous mode, and the plug flow reactor type. Okay, so in the batch mode you'll find that once in a week or once in a 10 days or once in a 15 days or once that size, a particular size of this waste that is put inside the reactor. Okay, so that is called one batch. Okay, and that after filling that waste in the reactor, you are allowing it to decompose for a certain period of time. Okay, which is called the hydraulic retention time. Okay, and after that, when the gas is when it gets decomposed completely, uh, the gas is collected, and then whichever leftover is there, that is emptied and again filled again with the new fresh waste, and thus this cycle is repeated again and again. That is called batch type. Then continuously stirred tank reactor, CSTR. In this type of reactor, every day you are putting the waste, and every day, after certain period of time, you are collecting the gas. And this process is continuous process. Means feeding of the waste inside the reactor and collecting the gas out of the reactor. Okay, so that is a continuous process. Okay, so this type of reactor is called continuously stirred tank reactor. Okay, so continuous in and outflow and mixing is there. Okay, now the third one is the plug flow reactor. In the plug flow reactor, the sludge which you have put inside the reactor moves through the reactor, and much like a train to a tunnel with a velocity corresponding to the minimal HRT. Okay, so HRT is hydraulic retention time, and the liquid phase can be recirculated to maintain the optimal moisture condition. As I told you that adequate moisture content is required there, otherwise um, acidity will increase. Okay. As far as uh, digester volume, anaerobic digester volume is concerned. Okay, so generally, your digester or reactor consists of two parts. The upper one is the dome shape, conical dome shape, and lower is the cylindrical type. Okay, um, according to this dome, whether it is fixed dome or floating drum, different types of digesters are there. Okay, in the fixed dome, the dome and the cylindrical part is integrated, whereas in the floating drum, that drum, conical drum, is floated over the slurry. Okay, so according to the type of according to type of mode which you are using, batch mode, continuous mode, or plug flow type. Okay, so the volume of this digester can be calculated. Okay, so the lower part, that is cylindrical part of the digesters, so their volume can be calculated using pi r square h1, where is the h1 is the height of the cylinder. Okay, and r is the radius of the cylinder, whereas the upper part of the digester, that is conical dome. Okay, so its volume also can be calculated using the formula 1 by 3 pi r square h2, where h2 is the height of the dome or cone. Okay, so here in the cone, the gas is collected. Okay, so generally, out of the total volume of the digester, 90%, 10% space is kept vacant for occupying the gas. Okay, so the volume of the slurry, that should be 90% of the total volume. So in this way, you can find out the total volume of the digester, and you can design it. Okay, so for this purpose, like if this biogas plant is based on the cow dung waste. Okay, so then in that case, you can see how much your need is there. Means, for example, that biogas is owned by a particular family, in which, let us say, 5 adults are there, or 2 children are there. Okay, and they have lighting needs of 200 candle power lamps, which they are using for 3 hours daily, like that. So what, whichever your cooking needs and electricity needs are there, accordingly you can design this digester. Okay, so how will you find out the cooking needs? So generally, as a thumb rule, uh, it is taken that around 0.2 to 7 cubic meter, 0.2 to 7 cubic meter volume of methane gas or biogas is needed for one grown-up man to fulfill his cooking needs. Fulfill his cooking needs. If children are there, then in that case, half of that can be taken. Okay, and for fulfilling the lighting needs or electricity generation, so then in that case, if 100 candle power bulb is there, then 100 candle power bulb takes around 0.126 cubic meter biogas for glowing it for 1 hour, for glowing it for 1 hour. So that much biogas is needed per hour. Okay, so how many number of such light you are using, so that can be multiplied. Okay. Then the calorific value of biogas is 23 megajoule per cubic meter. Okay, so accordingly, you can find out the how much biogas will be needed to fulfill your electricity needs. Okay, and if um, if that biodigester is based on cow dung, okay, means you are using cow dung as a waste, okay, so number of cows you have, okay, generally it is considered as a one cow gives you 10 kg cow dung per day. One cow gives you 10 kg cow dung per day, okay, out of which generally it is considered as a 70% only collectible. 70% is collectible, okay, and in which in the total cow dung, around 18% dry solid contents are there. 18% dry solid contents are there, okay, and on the basis of dry solid contents, okay, you can find out that how much biogas you need. Okay, so around 0.32 to 0.35 cubic meter biogas can be produced from 1 kg cow dung. 0.32 to 0.35 cubic meter biogas can be produced from the 1 kg cow dung. So in this way, how much cow dung you need for fulfilling your cooking as well as cooking needs as well as electricity needs. Okay, so that much number of cows you are needed. Okay, so from this you can find out the how much number of cows are needed to fulfill your family requirement for cooking as well as for electricity needs. Okay, so after getting this number of cows, okay, you can find out the uh, or you can design the digester. Okay, you can design the digester, okay, by finding out the volume. Okay, so that number of cows will give that much cow dung. Okay, and the density of the cow dung is around 1090 kg per 1090 kg per meter cube. Okay, so accordingly you can find out the volume of the digester. Volume of the digester. Okay, and after finding out the volume of the digester, the particular radius of the digester and the height of the digester, you can decide. Okay, now the environmental the factors which are responsible for the performance of this reactor or digester, they are environmental factors and the processing factors. So in the environmental factors, the different factors are operating temperature and pressure, retention time, organic loading rate, pH, seeding, toxic substances, okay, CN ratio, moisture content. Okay, so we'll see it one by one. So first is the operating temperature. So as I told you earlier, that temperature plays a very important role in the anaerobic decomposition process, because as I told you earlier that the three essential conditions which are required for anaerobic decomposition process to take place, they are wet, warm and dark. That is why this heat transfer analysis we are carrying out. Okay, so actually there are three temperature conditions, that is psychrophilic, mesophilic and thermophilic. Psychrophilic is at 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. Then mesophilic is 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, whereas thermophilic is 45 to 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is a very much influential parameter in the performance of the anaerobic decomposition process, and the base temperature range for this process is the mesophilic temperature range, that is 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. Because psychrophilic in the psychrophilic temperature range, that decomposition process will not take place properly, whereas in the thermophilic temperature range, definitely decomposition will be there, but quantitative production will be there, but not the qualitative production. Okay, the more biogas or methane gas will be produced, biogas will be produced, but that will have less quantity of methane but more quantity of carbon dioxide, because instead of decomposition there will be a combustion. Okay, as uh, temperature is high. Okay, so then in that case most of the waste or dry solid content gets combusted, okay, and CO2 carbon dioxide will be produced, okay. And you know that if the CO2 carbon dioxide percentage is more, then in that case that will reduce your calorific value. So the base temperature range for the anaerobic decomposition process is 35 to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that is typically recommended. Okay, and the digester requires significant amount of heat energy to maintain the temperature at this level. Okay, and somehow if the heat losses are there due to convective, radiative, or evaporative, okay, so then in that case it will affect the performance of the anaerobic decomposition process. So that is why you have to control these heat losses, and some if these heat losses are there, then how to enhance the temperature inside the reactor, that you have to see by um, some external means. So this is the first environmental factor we have seen. Then the pressure. Pressure is also needed. So the desirable pressure range in the anaerobic digester is 40 to 50 centimeter water column. Okay, if adequate pressure is not there, if adequate pressure is not there, then in that case the gas which is produced, that will not flow properly, and it will get accumulated there itself, okay, and it will not be transported to the gas collection chamber. Okay, so adequate pressure is required inside the reactor. The next environmental factor is a retention time. So little bit we have discussed earlier. Retention time means what? Retention time is the time required to decompose any waste completely. Okay, means these three stages, that is hydrolysis stage, and acetogenesis stage, and methogenesis stage. So the total time required to decompose that waste completely, that is called retention time, and it varies from it varies with the type of waste which you are using. Okay, if the waste which gets easily decomposed, then in that case the retention time will be less. Okay, and if some waste require means if some waste is not getting easily decomposed, hard waste is there. Okay, then in that case more retention time will be required. Now the next parameter is organic loading rate. So the frequency of putting that waste inside the reactor, okay, that decides actually the organic loading rate. Okay, so optimum loading rate is required. So whatever waste you are putting in the first stage, that is hydrolysis stage. Okay, so if more waste you are adding, so then in that case, most of the uh, waste will get accumulated, and there will be less quantity of moisture. So the acidity will increase. Okay, and most of the waste will get accumulated in the particular part of the reactor. Okay, so there should be a optimum loading rate. Now the pH value. Whether the hydrolysis stage is there, or acetogenesis stage is there, or methogenesis stage is there. So pH actually this is more sensitive to the pH value. Okay, because the bacteria which are present inside the reactor, they are much pH sensitive. Okay, so generally in the acetogenesis stage, that pH value uh, reduces up to 5, 5.5, 5.5. Okay, and then in the methogenesis stage, it rises up to 6.8, 7.2. Okay, so in the different stages, as such, there is no any watertight compartment in the different stages, that is hydrolysis, acetogenesis, or methogenesis stage. But as far as the retention time is there, okay, after a certain interval, they pass through the different stages of the decomposition process. Okay, and accordingly the pH value varies. So you need to closely monitor this pH value. Okay, because these bacteria which are responsible for decomposition process, they are much pH sensitive. Now the next environmental factor is seeding. The word seed means everybody knows seed. Okay, so any plant germinates from the seed. Okay, so that is the initial starting point of the plant. Okay, so here in this respect, the phenomena seeding means to initiate or to start the decomposition process. Okay, at your home you might have seen that to prepare for preparing the curd, what you do, you add previously prepared curd, little bit amount of previously prepared curd in the milk. Okay, so that is for to initiate the decomposition process. Okay, so here also the previously digested slurry, you have to add previously digested slurry, you have to add uh, in the reactor. Okay, so that will actually reduces the retention period, total retention period. Okay, so that is why seeding phenomena is preferred. Okay, generally what happens, when the complex organic compounds are there, that takes more time to decompose. Then in that case, if you add previously digested slurry, so adding previously digested slurry means the bacteria or microorganisms which are present in the previously digested slurry, they start growing and multiplying drastically. Okay, and the rate of reaction or rate of decomposition process enhances properly. So that is why this seeding phenomena is required. Now the next parameter, environment parameters factor, which is responsible for the performance of the digester, is the toxic substances. So as I told you that in the hydrolysis stage, you need to add adequate amount of water in the um, waste to form a sludge, to form a slurry. Okay, so the water which you are using, that should not contain toxic substances. For example, if the wastewater, industrial wastewater is there, generally in the industrial wastewater you will find that heavy metals are there, like um, chromium, nickel, zinc, metal. Okay, so if such way water, industrial wastewater you are using for the decomposition process, then in that case, the presence of these toxic substances will kill the bacteria or microorganisms. Okay, and that will affect the performance of decomposition process. So before adding water, you should see that it should not contain the toxic substances. Now the next factor is CN ratio. CN ratio means what? CN ratio is carbon to nitrogen ratio. Carbon to nitrogen ratios. So whichever waste you are using, that should contain adequate quantity of carbon as well as nitrogen. Okay, and they should be in the range of 30:1, means 30 part of carbon to the 1 part of nitrogen. Okay, what is the role of carbon and nitrogen in this decomposition process? So the carbon supplies energy. Carbon supplies energy. Okay, so and the nitrogen gives is useful for building cell structure. Nitrogen is used for building cell structure. Okay, that is why both these components are useful for decomposition process. Okay, now, one more component is there, that is phosphorus. Okay, so 1% of the total volume phosphorus, that also you can add. The role of phosphorus is that it accelerates the rate of reaction. It accelerates the rate of reaction, or it increases the rate of reaction, phosphorus. Okay, so if sometimes if you face the problem that um, the methane content are less, then in that case you can add some carbohydrates waste. Okay, containing carbohydrate waste containing carbohydrates. Okay, if there is a shortage of nitrogen, then in that case you can add leguminous plants, seeds. Okay, to fulfill their needs, nitrogen contents. Okay, and for phosphorus, the very good source of phosphorus is the um, night soil. Night soil means what? Night soil is a human waste. Okay, so human waste or night soil is very good source of the phosphorus. So that phosphorus also 1% of the total volume can be added. Okay, So the role of phosphorus is to accelerate the rate of decomposition process. Now the next environmental factor is moisture content. Okay, so as I told you earlier that adequate moisture content is required for decomposition process. If any dry waste is there, then that dry waste will not get decomposed. At your home, you might have seen if you keep the newspaper or books or copies in the shelf or almirahs, okay, for longer period, it will not decompose. Okay, but if you dip that newspaper in the water and then if you keep that newspaper, wet newspaper, okay, after certain period of time, it will start decomposing. It will start decomposing. That is why the wet condition is very favorable for decomposition process. Then the process operating factors we'll see one by one. That is a type of digester. As I told you that continuous type or batch type. So actually the frequency of collecting the waste, if it is not more, then in that case batch type can be preferred. So one batch of waste at particular interval you can put that batch in the digester. So that is batch type. Now if you are having the waste every day and you are facing the problem of waste storage problem, if you are facing, so it's better to have continuous type. Okay, so that every day you are putting that waste in the reactor and every day you are collecting the gas in the gas collection chamber, so that is continuous type. Okay, then the other criteria of classifying the digester is a fixed dome and floating drum. Fixed dome and floating drum. Okay, so where the dome and the lower part of the cylinder reactor, okay, if they are integrated, then that is a fixed dome. Okay, and if the um, upper part, that is the dome drum, floating drum, if that floating drum is floated over the slurry, that is floating drum. Okay, in the floating drum type digester, there is no um, need of stirring arrangement or mixing. Okay, whereas in the fixed dome, external stirring arrangement is required for properly mixing it. Okay, then the type of feedstock, the type of waste which you are using. Okay, so that also plays very important role, because sometimes what happens is the waste which you are using. Okay, if it is easily decomposable, then the retention period required will be less. But if hard waste is there, like leaves, stem, roots, okay, so then in that case it will take more time to decompose. So in such cases, the concept of co-digestion can be used. Co-digestion means what? In the co-digestion process, along with the hard waste, okay, some soft waste or the easily decomposable waste can be added. Okay, so if more than one type of waste you are using, that is a co-digestion. Okay, that is a co-digestion. Then the next operating factor is digester configuration. Digester configuration. So the size of digester, just we have seen how to determine the volume of the digester and how to design the digester. So as I told you earlier that out of the total volume, you need to keep 10% empty space for occupying the gas. Okay, then the volume of the cone and volume of the lower part of the digester or cylinder. So that can be determined by by seeing that how much waste you are putting every day. Okay, how much waste you are collecting every day. Accordingly, the digester configuration can be set. Okay. Then the other operating factor is mixing. Okay, so mixing is required for proper homogenizing of the waste. Okay, if proper mixing is not there, then in that case, what happen? While decomposition process to takes place, most of the solid contents gets get collected at the top of the slurry. Okay, and there is a problem of scum formation. Scum formation. Scum means what? Scum means a thick layer of solid waste, solid thing. Okay, deposited at the top of the slurry. Okay, that is called scum formation. For example, at your home, you might have seen that um, while preparing the milk, okay, while boiling the milk, okay, the thick layer is deposited at the top of the milk, okay, that is actually a scum. So scum formation is never desirable because um, that is actually a loss of waste content, okay. So scum formation means actually there is a qualitative loss, qualitative as well as quantitative loss. Okay, so to avoid this scum formation, it's better to have some stirring arrangement for proper mixing or homogenizing the slurry. Okay, proper mixing and homogenizing uh, gives you that it provides that the transportation or movement of the bacteria from one place to another that increases, okay, and most of the content of the slurry they get mixed with each other, properly homogenized with each other, okay. So as a result of that, the rate of decomposition enhances drastically. Now the next operating parameter is feeding frequency. Okay, so the frequency of adding that waste in the reactor. Okay, so that should be the optimum waste, optimum. Otherwise, what happens if too much excess frequency is there, too much frequency is there, then in that case, most of the waste will get accumulated in the reactor, and as a result of that, means as compared to the quantity of number of bacteria, the substrate concentration will be more. Okay, so there should be a optimum waste. Then if the quantity of waste is more, then in that case the moisture content which is desirable, that is around 75 to 80%, that will get reduced. Okay, as a result of that, most of the waste will not get solubilized and accumulated at particular part of the reactor. Okay, so you have to decide a proper feeding frequency uh, while designing the digester. Okay, impact of temperature we have already seen. Now, one trial we have carried out in our campus by taking the substrate that is Parthenium hysterophos. So it is widely available weed in our campus, Parthenium hysterophorus. But as we are seeing, it is hard to decompose Parthenium hysterophorus. So that is why we have chosen the co-digestion mode. So along with the Parthenium hysterophorus process, we have used easily decomposable material, that is kitchen waste from the hostel sector. Okay, and we have added this kitchen waste along with this Parthenium hysterophorus with the ratio 1:3. Okay, this Parthenium hysterophorus is actually unbearable flowering plants, which offers a big challenge to the attempts of control. Okay, so only way to get rid of this Parthenium hysterophorus is to burn it after drying. Okay, so generally after the rainy season, the whole campus is covered with these weeds. Okay, and it spoils entire atmosphere, making it unhygienic. Okay, so to get rid of these weeds, that is Parthenium hysterophorus, we have decided to use it for a decomposition process. Then it has a high regeneration capacity, production of huge amount of seeds, high seed germinability, and extreme adaptability to wide range of ecosystem. So this bioreactor we have used for taking trial of heat transfer analysis. So its capacity is 1 cubic meter. Approximate analysis of this Parthenium hysterophorus we have carried out. So in which we obtained that moisture content is 80.26, ash content on dry basis is 3.31, whereas volatile metal on dry basis is 12.63, and the fixed carbon is 3.80. We have checked its composition of this Parthenium hysterophorus, that is lignin is around 13.9%, cellulose is 27.8%, and that of say heavy cellulose is 21.01. Okay, as you know that with the uh, component which is responsible for very much responsible for anaerobic decomposition is lignocellulose material. So that is better in the Parthenium esterophores. That is why we have chosen it. Okay, so um, how dry solids contents can be determined, that is shown here by using this glass panel. In the glass panel, we have kept this filter paper. Okay, so where the solid residue gets accumulated, and then after further drying, the solid residues at around 105 degrees Celsius. That solid residue, the weight of solid residue is taken of the dried mass. So the convention which can be used for dry solid contents, unit dry solid content, that is if 1% dry solid is equal to around 10,000 milligram per liter of solid in water, which means that 99% of sample consists of water. And if the 100% dry solid contents are there, then the um, 10 lakh milligrams per liter at 1 kg per liter dry solid contents are there, means no water in the sample. So this total dry solid that consists of actually two parts, that is volatile part and the inert solids. Okay. So these volatile solids, uh, that is organic solids, the fraction of the total solids which can be burnt, volatiles, in the muffle oven at around 520 degrees Celsius. And this volatile solid can be broken down by the anaerobic decomposition process. So this is the total solid is the sum of this volatile solid and the inert solids. Now we have monitored the inside and outside temperature of this digester. Okay, every day. So outside temperature we have measured using the infrared temperature gun, and the inside temperature we have measured using the K-type thermocouple. Okay. So we have seen that we have taken this trial in the winter season where the slurry temperature was 37 degrees Celsius, ambient air temperature was 15 degrees Celsius, and thickness of the metal dome of this digester is 0.005 meter. Thermal conductivity is 62.403 watt per meter Kelvin, and the temperature of air inside the dome. So we have measured it up, that is 35 degrees Celsius. So how we have calculated heat loss, heat transfer coefficient, that is from slurry to the air inside the dome. So there are three modes of the heat loss. Heat losses, that is radiative, convective, and evaporative. So we have calculated this radiative, convective, and evaporative heat losses using this expression. So this expression, which is given by the um, Duffy and Beckman, that is for radiative heat loss coefficient, that is this which is shown in the equation number 1, where T emissivity is Stefan Boltzmann constants are there. TW is the temperature of slurry, and TG is the temperature of the gas. Okay, so by putting this value, we got the radiative heat transfer coefficient. Stefan Boltzmann constant value is 5.67 into 10 raised to power minus 8. Okay, so the radiative heat loss heat transfer coefficient we have obtained 5.35 watt per meter square Kelvin. Then the convective heat loss coefficient we have calculated using the expression given by Fernandez and Chorgay in 1990. So where by putting the value of slurry water temperature and the gas temperature, and accordingly the pressure of the slurry and the gas. Okay, we have calculated using the expression which is given in the expression number 3, equation number 3. Okay, by putting this all this value, we got the convective heat loss coefficient 1.33 watt per meter square Kelvin. Then we have calculated the operative heat transfer coefficient, which is given by the Cooper in 1973. Okay, so by putting the convective heat loss coefficient, that is 1.33 in this expression, and the value of water slurry pressure and the gas pressure. Okay, so we got the value of evaporative heat transfer coefficient, that is 12.55 watt per meter square Kelvin. Thus, the total heat transfer coefficient, which is from slurry to the enclosed air inside the dome, we have calculated, that is the sum of radiative, evaporative, and convective heat loss coefficient, which that is 19.23 watt per meter square Kelvin. So this was the heat transfer from slurry to the air inside the dome. Now we have calculated the heat transfer coefficient from the top of the dome to the ambient. Okay, so the Duffy-Beckman has given the expression for this, that is heat transfer coefficient from top of the dome to the ambient. Okay, so that is SC is equal to 5.7 plus 3.8 V, where V is the velocity. Okay, and this expression is for the range of velocity from 0 to 5 meter per second. Okay, so that day we have measured the velocity with the help of hot wire anemometer. So it was 3.1 meter per second. Okay, so by putting this value, we got the heat transfer coefficient from top of the dome to the ambient, that is 17.1 watt per meter square Kelvin. Okay, so after that, we have calculated the overall heat transfer coefficient by putting this value. So the 17.1 watt per meter square Kelvin is the heat transfer coefficient from the top of the dome to the ambient, and 19.2 is the heat transfer coefficient from the slurry to the air inside the dome. Okay, and here L, that is the thickness of the dome, that is 0.005. Then K is the thermal conductivity, that is 62.403. So after putting all these value, we got the overall heat transfer coefficient is 9.04 watt per meter square Kelvin. Means this much heat losses are there. So we have to take care of these heat losses, because as I told you that for anaerobic decomposition process to take place, the three essential conditions which are required, that is wet, warm, and dark. So adequate warm condition you have to maintain inside the reactor, and if the heat losses are more, then in that case by putting some external means like by putting some heating coil, or by putting some reflectors. Okay, so that warm condition you have to build inside the reactor. Okay, so such external means can be used. Such external means can be used to maintain that warm condition. So this is my first part of the presentation. Second part of the presentation is the kinetic modeling of anaerobic digestion process. So in the kinetic modeling, as I told you that the bacteria or microorganisms which are present inside the reactor, their quantity is in crores of quantities or millions of bacteria are there. Okay, and the growing of these bacteria happens by cell division. That is anabolic and catabolic breakdown of the cell constituents. Okay, in the metabolic reaction. Okay, so this bacterial growth, which is actually a complex process involving numerous anabolic and catabolic reaction. Okay, so the growing rate and the dying rate of the bacteria, actually the production of the bacteria, then growing of the bacteria, then dying of the bacteria, all these constitute the bacterial growth cycle. Okay, so the bacterial growth curve is there. Okay, which consists of different phases: lag phase, continuous phase, exponential phase, maturity phase, and the dying phase. Okay, so that can be very well explained with the help of Monod model, uh, that is bacterial growth curve. So here, if the medium supplies all the nutrients required for growth and environmental parameters are optimal, the increase in the number of bacterial mass can be measured as a function of time to obtain the growth curve. So in the growth curve, there exists actually a four phases, that is lag phases, exponential or log phases, stationary phase, and the death phase. Okay, so we'll see it one by one. So here in the graph, you can see these four phases are there, that is lag phases, exponential phases, stationary phase, and death phases. Okay, so with respect to time, that is a retention period. Okay, so these bacteria produce, then they grow in size and multiply in numbers. Okay, then one stage is reached, that is stationary phase, where growing rate and dying rate is almost equal, that is a stationary phase. And after that, after certain period of time, as compared to the dying rate, the growing rate is nominal, death rate is more. Okay, so that is a death phase. So let us see one by one. The first phase is the lag phase. So lag phase is actually a first phase, okay, where the growth rate is almost zero. Growth rate is almost zero. Okay, a little bit growth rate is there. We cannot say exact zero, but little bit growth rate is there. So after placing inoculum into fresh medium, growth begins by seeding concept, seeding phenomenon. Okay, so the growth begins after a period of time, and this is actually called a lag phase. So the period required or period for the lag phase that may last from minutes to several hours. The length of lag phases that depends upon the type of medium which you are using, as well as the initial inoculum size. Okay, so if you are using this inoculum from the exponential phase of the previously digested slurry, okay, previously digested slurry, and is placed into the fresh medium concentration around 10 to 6 cells per ml. Okay, so under the same growth condition, like temperature, shaking speed, there will be no noticeable lag phase. Okay, so in this way you can reduce the lag phase by adding the inoculum from the exponential phase. So this is actually a seeding phenomenon. So this is the second phase of the growth cycle, that is exponential phase. In the exponential phase, growth and the rate of increase of the cell is maximum as compared to the other phases. Okay, and the number of cells and the mass of the cell increases in geometric progression, that is 2:0, 2:1, 2:2, 2:3, like that up to 2:n. So these bacteria or microorganism grows and multiply by undergoing anabolic and catabolic reaction. So it takes place by cell division. So like initially one cell is there that gets divided into two cells, then that these two cells further divided into two more cells, like that cell division takes place. And in this way, growing and multiplication of the bacteria or microorganism takes place. Okay, and they increases exponentially in the second phase, that is exponential phase. So mathematically, the cell growth during this exponential phase can be described using the formula dx by dt is equal to mu x. Okay, so where x is the number or mass of the cells. Both you can consider number of bacteria or mass of the bacteria. Okay, so mass per unit volume you can consider. T is the time required to grow the bacteria or grow and multiply the bacteria. Mu is the specific growth rate constant per unit time. Okay, so in the stationary phase, as there is no net growth is there, so we can express this dx by dt is equal to almost zero in the stationary phase. Okay, so in the stationary phase, although there is no net growth, but still cells which are present there, they still grow and divide. Okay, so it doesn't mean that in the stationary phase, growing rate is almost zero. Okay, a little bit amount of growth is always there. Growing and division of the cell occurs there, but the growing of the bacteria or microorganism, that is balanced by equal number of cells dying. So the growth rate and dying rate is almost equal in the stationary phase. Last phase of the growth cycle is the death phase. So this is the final phase of the growth cycle. Here there is a net loss of culturable cell. Okay, and the death rate is more, dying rate is more as compared to the growth rate. Okay, so of course growth is there, cell division is also there, but that is negligible as compared to the dying rate. So growth and cell division is there, but loss of cell is more. So even in exponential phase, loss of cells are there. So whatever the substrate you are using, the concentration of that substrate that is responsible for the growing and multiplication of these bacteria. Okay, so the growth rate of the bacteria is closely related to the substrate concentration. Okay, so that can be very well, that is very well explained by the scientist Jacques Monod in 1940. So one expression is there, that is Monod equation, that is mu is equal to mu max S upon Ks plus S, where mu is the specific growth rate, mu max is the maximum specific growth rate for the culture, S is the substrate concentration, that is mass per unit volume, mass of bacteria per unit volume of the substrate concentration, and Ks is the affinity constant or saturation constant, that is mass per unit volume. Okay, also called half saturation constant. Okay, so this expression is given by the Monod. So before developing this equation, Monod has performed series of experiments um, before developing it. Okay, and result of these experiments showed that low substrate concentration growth rate becomes a function of substrate concentration. So thus, Monod designed equation to describe the relationship between the specific growth rate and the substrate concentration. So Monod has considered two limiting cases here in the Monod equation. Okay, so the he has expressed this expression in terms of cell number of cells and cell mass, that dx by dt is equal to mu max Sx upon Ks plus S. Okay, where mu max is the maximum specific growth rate and S is the substrate concentration. Okay, so the two limiting condition which he has considered, that is the uh, first case is that high substrate concentration means substrate concentration is very much high as compared to the saturation constant. Okay, yes. So then in that case, this equation 2, that is dx by dt is equal to mu max Sx upon Ks plus S, will become dx by dt is equal to mu max S, because Ks, that is saturation constant, is almost negligible as compared to the substrate concentration. So if you modify this expression, it will become dx by dt is equal to mu max X. Second limiting condition is that the saturation constant is very high as compared to this substrate concentration. So then in that case, this equation will, Monod equation will become dx by dt is equal to mu max Sx upon Ks. Okay, so as shown in equation 4, so when the substrate concentration is low, then in that case, that growth rate, that is dx by dt, is dependent on the substrate concentration. Since the substrate concentration is in this is the numerator, as the substrate concentration decreases, the rate of growth is found at the end of growth curve, as the substrate is nearly consumed completely. He has also mentioned the cell yield. Okay, so he has expressed this cell yield in terms of this expression, that the dx by dt is equal to 1 upon y dx by dt, where y is the cell yield. Cell yield in terms of mass per unit mass, mass of bacteria per unit mass of substrate. Okay, so the cell yield coefficient is defined as the unit amount of cell mass produced per unit amount of substrate consumed. Okay, so per unit mass of substrate consumed, how much amount of cell mass of the bacteria is produced. So this is expressed in terms of cell yield. So if you put this value of equation 2 and equation 5 in this equation 6, okay, so in this equation 5, 2 and 5, okay, so by equating it, this expression will become dx by dt is equal to minus 1 upon y mu max Sx upon Ks plus S. Okay, so number of cells can be counted like this. So sample containing the number of cells that can be put over the glass slip, glass plate. Okay, and on the glass plate, that sample is added, and then it is covered by the cover slip. Over the cover slip, by drawing horizontal and vertical lines, uh, the grid is formed. Okay, so and the gap between the cover slip and the glass plate is uh, let's say 0.02 mm, that is 1 upon 50 mm. Okay, and that whole grid that consists of 25 large square, okay, of total area 1 mm square, okay. So total volume is 1.02 mm cube. Total volume is 0.02 mm cube. So under electronic microscope, if you observe this, so you can see in the each square how many cells are there. Like here in each square, total 12 cells are there. So you can calculate number of the cells per milliliter of the sample. Okay, so in each square, if the 12 cells are there and 25 such large squares are there, so and the gap between the cover slip and the and the glass plate is 1 by 50 mm. Okay, so in this way, by multiplying it, you can calculate number of cells per milliliter per ml. So the kinetic modeling is performed with using the Monod equation. So the cell growth using the actually the prominent phase in the growth cycle is a exponential phase. So that is why the exponential phase is taken for kinetic modeling. So in the exponential phase, dx by dt is equal to mu x, where x is the number or mass of cell. Both can be considered, number of bacteria or mass of the cell. Okay, mu is the specific growth rate and t is the time required for increasing number of bacteria or increasing number of mass. Okay, so x0 initial number of bacteria, number of initial mass to the final number of bacteria or final mass. Okay, so you can integrate it with respect to time. Okay, initial time and final time. So after integrating it, you can see that the number of cells will be doubled. Okay, so for to be doubled, x upon x0 is equal to 2. Okay, then as far as stationary phase is concerned, as I told you earlier, that this growth rate dx by dt is almost 0. Okay, so this Monod equation, which is given mu is equal to mu max s upon ks plus s. Okay, so if you rewrite it, Monod equation mu is equal to mu m into s upon ks plus s. Okay, and then take reciprocal of the both this reciprocal of both the side, that is left side and right side of this equation. Okay, so and so the numerator will come at the denominator and denominator will go to the numerator. So you can rearrange it and it will come in the form of equation of straight line. Okay, so 1 upon mu is equal to ks upon mu m into 1 upon s plus 1 upon mu m. So it is in the form of equation of straight line, that is y is equal to mx plus c. This equation is called Lineweaver-Burke equation. Okay, and you can plot this equation. Okay, by plotting 1 upon mu versus 1 upon s. Okay, so you will get the linear plot whose slope will be ks upon mu m, and y-intercept is 1 upon mu m, and x-intercept is 1 upon k. Okay, so if you plot this equation on the graph, okay, so you can see that is 1 upon mu versus 1 upon s. Okay, so you can see the nature of curve, and you can predict the values of specific growth rate by using this graph. So in this way, kinetic modeling can be carried out by using the Monod model. Okay, so in conclusion, at last I can say that as two analysis has been carried out, that is heat transfer analysis and kinetic modeling of this anaerobic bioreactor. The purpose of carrying out this heat transfer analysis is that the three essential conditions which are required for the anaerobic decomposition process, that is wet, warm, and dark. Okay, so for keeping warm condition inside the reactor, you need to see how much heat losses are there, as three different modes are there for heat losses, that is radiative heat loss, convective, and evaporative heat loss. So with these different mode, how much heat losses are there, that you have to see. Okay, so accordingly, to take care of these heat losses, some external means we have to adopt for to maintain the warm condition by like applying heating coil or by putting some reflectors. Okay, now and the second part of the presentation, that is kinetic modeling. Okay, so in the kinetic modeling, the bacteria which undergoes different life cycle, growth cycle. Okay, that is a lag phase, exponential phase, then stationary phase, and the death phase. Okay, so how they behave in different phases, and what is the role of substrate concentration, yeah, in these different phases of the bacterial growth. Okay, that can be very well explained by performing this kinetic modeling. Okay, so this is the purpose of carrying out these two analyses, that is heat transfer analysis and the uh, kinetic modeling analysis. So these are the references. Um, so this is my presentation. Actually, I have one important meeting. So if you have any queries or doubts, so my contact details are there with the organizers of this FDP. So you can mail me, or you can contact me. Okay, so I will be happy to answer your queries. Okay, and one more thing is that, or otherwise, tomorrow I can available for answering your queries if any spare time is there.
Okay, sir. Definitely, we will inform you if any queries is there. So, make the participant need the PPT. If you can share the PPT.
I will mail that. I will mail that PPT to you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Such a nice presentation, and
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much for questions hearing. And please get my contact details from the organizers. Okay, and
yes,
please
sir.
mail me if you have any queries. And
Definitely, I will send.
and tomorrow or day after tomorrow, if any spare time is there, please let me know. So that time I will be available, okay, to answer
Okay,
the
sir. If any
queries.
queries is there, definitely we will contact you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So the next session will start at 3:45. So everyone present that lecture. So the lecture is given by Dr. Surojit Devanath. Okay. So we'll meet at 3:45.